so welcome to episode 4 of the Fundamentals. Today we're going to be focusing on shoulder mobility. Make sure you guys look at the previous 3 episodes that we've already gone over. So warm-up was episode number 1, then we had core and ab progression, and then the last one was proper setup and how to maintain that posture throughout the golf swing. So I actually just got back from the PGA show down in Orlando, which was really cool because we got to actually talk to Dr. Greg Rose and Dave Phillips, who are the founding, fathers of TPI. So they created TPI, I think it was actually the 20th or 25th anniversary of the creation. So we'll go over a video later on which kind of explains what TPI is. Essentially what it is it gives me the ability to get certified to screen golfers. So they came up with 15 different tests that look at a bunch of different things, and one of those is shoulder mobility. So we were able to go in there and actually get 8 hours of not one-on-one, but it was a relatively smaller class where we went through all 15 different characteristics that we look at a swing. We also went over the TPI screen again, which was great because you always learn something when you do these tests over and over and over again. So again, I'm a physical therapist over at 3D PT. We have a bunch of offices in South Jersey. We offer free screens for golfers. So please contact 3D PT to get that free screen, because we're here for you guys, and it's a perfect time now, especially in Jersey, where our weather has been so bad that the courses have pretty much been shut down for about a month and a half, which is, to me, a worst nightmare. So hopefully that starts to get a little bit better and we can start to go back outside and do a couple more videos out there. But in the meantime, and now's a great time to get assessed to see, where am I limited at? What things can I work on? And again, there's not a perfect golf swing, but if we can kind of work on certain things where we're having trouble with, that's going to have a really big impact on how we can swing the golf club. So now that we kind of get an understanding of the basics, at least on how to warm up, how to set up properly, and now how to maintain that core throughout, a big thing that people struggle with, especially as we start, is getting to the top of the backswing, and a lot of time that's due to the shoulder mobility that we lack. So if you were to test yourself here, right, and hold this arm up, can you get that elbow to maintain its position and rotate to get it past your spine? So if you look at my spine angle here and I rotate, I'm a little bit past that spine. A lot of times people will kind of go and they'll get stuck here, and if we stand up, that's not too far away, but it's going to limit us, if you think, from getting up to the backswing, because look where my arm has to kind of sit. Not all golf swings are the same. I mean, if we're going to take a look at Rory McIlroy, who does a great job of getting to the top, and we're also going to look at Fred Couples, who gets to the top in a totally different way and has also won major championships. So don't think what I'm saying is, oh, I have to get to this position to be a good golfer. That's not the case. It's super important to know that we can work around different deficits or different swing characteristics, as we call them. So we mentioned we're going to look at Rory and Fred here and kind of get a sense of how their shoulders move in the backswing and the downswing. So if we're to play this video here, okay, so Fred is here, and we're going to speed this up a tiny bit. So as Fred kind of takes away here, we'll notice as we get to the top of the backswing here, look for the arm to not necessarily get past that neutral position. So if I were to test Fred, that would be something that I'd be like, hey, we're probably a little limited here, and we call external rotation. So he's going to have to figure out a way to shallow this club that's not coming from the shoulder, because he's, as you can see, the line would be here. His shoulder is not getting past that line. So as he downswings here, you'll see he's able to shallow out that club very well. So his wrist probably have great mobility, which overcomes the mobility here at the shoulder. So he gets back on plane here and doesn't have an issue. And people call this guy like the smoothest swing in golf. So it shows you, if you don't have the mobility at the shoulder, you can still be a really good golfer. We're going to take a look at his backswing here, and you're going to notice his position at the top of the backswing is much different than Fred Couples. So as you can see, that's probably where Fred gets to in terms of his external rotation of the shoulder. And you'll see Rory, though, on the opposite hand. I mean, look at the difference of that shoulder. I mean, one, his rotation is insane. So he can rotate probably better than anyone in the world, which is why he can produce such a powerful and efficient swing. But that shoulder, I mean, you can almost see here, I mean, we're getting a lot of rotation, okay? And not only does his, so we call it the back shoulder, so the right shoulder on his backswing, not only does that have a good amount of rotation, but as we move forward in the golf swing, you'll see rotation is required at both shoulders. We think of the backswing a lot more than the follow through, but look at how far he'll get this left shoulder to rotate as well. So that's why it's important that both of these shoulders are being worked on, because let's say Rory, for example, let's say he has something going on with the shoulder. Maybe he has a rotator cuff injury. Maybe he has some type of impingement going on. So when we look at that, we would question, okay, if he can't get through this way, how's he going to rotate as well? He can't. He would have to figure out another way to do it, but he obviously doesn't have any issues here going on, because look at how far he can get that arm to rotate. There's a way to swing the golf club a million different ways. We can make them work as well. There's not a perfect golf swing, but there are things that we'd like a golfer to have that's going to make it a little bit easier to get in positions, especially if we're starting out. You know, you might have this motion and not even know how to use it, or you might be lacking it because you've never worked on it. So we'll get a little bit into the exercises soon that can help you not necessarily try to mimic Rory, because again, you might have limitations that we necessarily can't get through, but you'll still be able to swing the golf club correctly. Don't think, oh man, I don't have this mobility, I'm not going to be a good golfer. But you're just going to have to figure out a different way to what we call shallow the club. Let's say I'm limited, so I get here, right? I'm pretty much stuck here. If I just turn, I'm going to be very over the top. So what some of the best players do is when they get to this position here, they do what we call shallow. So they'll get this club to actually fall back in line. Okay, and we'll kind of draw some arrows here to show what that really line means. But we want to prevent this. So we want to prevent going over the top. That's where you're going to start to see some of those big slices to the right, which a lot of us deal with. So being able to have that mobility in the arm almost puts us at an advantage versus other people, because if they lack it, they're going to have to figure out a different way to shallow, which you can from other spots or other joints and other parts of the body. Okay, so now that we know why it's important to have shoulder mobility in the golf swing, we're going to go through 3 different exercises today that we can start with to at least get things moving in the right direction. So again, we want to get to this position here because it gives us the most optimal way to get through the club or shallow it. What we're going to do now is something we call a low load, long duration stretch. So big thing I want to emphasize first before we actually demonstrate the exercise is, and make sure you watch episode 1, the warm up, because this is going to really kind of emphasize this part of it, but there's different kind of stretches. So when we're on the course, we don't really want to do much passive stretching or things we would consider reaching across and holding or going behind the back. Some kind of low load, like a hamstring stretch, for example. Those things we don't really necessarily want to do right before a round because they actually decrease performance for a certain amount of time. We want to do more dynamic stuff on the course. Here, complete opposite. If I want to gain motion, and again, I'm going to use some dynamic, but I want to do a little bit of passive as well. So with this one, you're going to grab your club here, you're lifting up, it's going behind that arm, okay? This one comes across. Big thing I want you to look at is my arm, we like to call this a 90 degree. So 90 degree here, 90 degree here, so double 90, 90. And then you're pulling forward with this left arm and rotating. So if I kind of moved here, you can see I'm getting into that more shallow position, okay? Now, with this, I'm going to hold for 30 seconds. There should not be any pain. I shouldn't feel like it's unbearable. And you can slowly work more and more. And again, we're not extending the back here. We're just staying upright in posture and letting this club do the work, okay? So about 30 seconds to a minute, both sides. All right, so exercise number 2, we're going to use a physio ball here. If you don't have this, what we can use is a foam roller or something of that sort that's just going to slide a little bit. So with this one, we're going to be focusing mainly on the lat. So there's a big muscle back here. And that muscle here sometimes prevents us, if it's too tight, from going overhead, okay? So what we want to do is arms face always up. So palms up on this one. You're going to slowly roll this ball out, keeping the thumbs pointed out. So you don't want these thumbs to fall in. You want to pull out, and you'll actually feel a more intense stretch as you actively try to hold that, and then you're just sliding in. And sliding out, good. Fingers, again, always stay pointed out. We call this supination. And then back in. So these are going to be 10-ish seconds. Again, it's kind of like that longer load, so we're not necessarily doing something 1 or 2 seconds. We're going to actually hold it. All right, so our last exercise, and I'm going to kind of break this one up into 2 different subcategories. So this one's going to be what I would say is the introduction. So do this one first, and if you feel like this one's super easy and you're not getting the stretch that you need, I'm going to show you a progression of that in a little bit. So with this one, we call these wall slides. So starting off with, we like these 90-degree positions for some reason. Don't ask me why, but we're going to try to keep this 90-degree position here. Arms are going to kind of come out, okay? I want this arm to try and always hug the wall. So I don't want to come off at all. I'm staying on, keeping it and sliding over top. And then the goal is to try to get this to rotate towards the wall, so my right shoulder. So I don't want this to stay out. I want this to be almost like you're hugging the wall here, and then sliding back over. Okay, so the next progression. So let's say that was super easy. Let's say Roy McIlroy decides to hop on here and watch my video, and he's like, you know what, Paul, I want a little bit more of an intense stretch. I'm going to say, all right, well, let's make the 3-footers first, and then we'll come back in here and do this. All right, so we're going to switch legs here. All right, so now right one is now at that 90-degree angle, okay? Arms are going to stay here, except now instead of them being out, I want them to actually lock behind our head, okay? I'm going to start facing you. My entire left side is on this wall, okay? I'm going to bend forward, so flex at the hip, come up, rotate, keeping that left side on the wall. And then I'm hugging it, and now I'm bending backwards, and now I'm doing the same thing in reverse order. Perfect. So we're wall sliding here. So Rory, if you're having trouble with the 3-footers, come in here, do a couple of stretches, reset, and then your money. All right, so we went over 3 different exercises to help improve that shoulder mobility to get into a little bit more of an optimal position. The first one was going to be the stretch with the club, okay? Second one was going to be the lat mobility, so the sliding on the physio ball. And the last one was the wall slides with the progression of that as well. So they're the 3 that I want you guys to focus on initially. You know, I'm here for you guys. So again, feel free to message me. This is for you guys. There's not a dumb question. There's ways to progress everything. There's ways to regress everything as well. So if things are a little bit too tough with these, you know, feel free to give me a little shout out and then go from there. So my Instagram's the same thing, Doctor of Golf. I'm posting videos on there as well. So if you guys want a little bit shorter, condensed videos, that's where you guys would probably get the most bang for your buck. And then, yeah, next week. So week 5, we're already at the second month of this journey here together. So that's going to focus on what are the most common golf injuries we have. And I'll give you a hint, probably low back. So we're going to go over what causes those injuries and how we can kind of work towards fixing them to enable us to be pain-free while we golf.